Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in the business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes. This day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Okay, hello everyone. So this is kind of my inaugural, whatever. I can't pronounce words. Everyone knows that. Twitch stream, because I decided I am going to be doing, at least for a while, my LNC update videos solely on Twitch, at least for the initial airing. I'll throw it on YouTube and Odyssey at a later date. But some friends of mine, particularly Chuck Moulton, and if Chuck doesn't show up tonight, I'm going to be super disappointed. You know, he said you are really, really missing out by not doing Twitch only, because there are easy ways for people to support you on Twitch. So we're going to go over that a little bit here, and I don't expect very many of my regular viewers to be here at first, because they're going to have to get used to this. Now, normally, and I am going to shove this on my regular Twitch schedule, tonight's an anomaly. I normally would not do an LNC update on a Tuesday, but because we just came back from our quarterly meeting in Alexandria, Virginia, this weekend, I wanted to do it right away. Normally, the LNC updates are on Friday, so I will do a regular schedule that I will throw up on Twitch for every Friday for an LNC update, but this was just to try it out. So again, I do not expect very much of my regular audience, and they're probably going to be ticked at me that I didn't do this on YouTube. But there is so much to cover that I'm probably maybe slightly better off by not having a million comments. So for those of you who might be tuning in, who aren't familiar with me, generally from YouTube, because that is my normal environment, and Facebook, I am the National Secretary for the Libertarian National Committee. And when I do my LNC updates, it's reporting on things that had happened at the National Governing Board of the Libertarian Party. However, I have to say this, all views expressed are my own, and you cannot expect them to be the views of the National Libertarian Party. I've gotten in trouble for that before, because my views are not always necessarily the same views of the party. But I do have a favor to ask you. I do have something to ask you. On Twitch, if you are an Amazon Prime member, most of you probably know this, but if you are, you get a free subscription a month. Now, subscription on Twitch obviously is much different than it is on YouTube. If you use or you subscribe to a channel rather than follow a channel, normally there's a cost to that. And there goes my husband just walking upstairs, shaking the whole house. There normally is a cost to that, but if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get one free subscription a month, and it allows you to support a streamer. So I have my one subscription a month, but I can't support my own channel. So if any of you out there are a Twitch streamer and you're looking to exchange subscriptions, in other words, I subscribe to your channel, you subscribe to mine, and then we each get the benefit from our own Prime subscription, shoot me a message. Let me know. My email address is pinkflameofliberty@gmail.com. So let's get into what happened. It was our first real full LNC meeting since the Mises Caucus takeover, if that's what you want to call it, the Reno reset. Even though now we are not simply representing a caucus, we are representing the entirety of the party. But I'd like to go over with you the things that we got accomplished, and quite a bit got accomplished. But while we're going over this, along the side here, you can find my social medias. You can always get in touch with me there. Pretty much my username at any social media platform is Karen Ann Harlow, CaryannHarlos. All right, let me pull up my notes because I haven't done the minutes yet for this meeting, because it's going to take me a good 40 hours to do these minutes. And I need to tell Wayne that he cannot walk like a Clydesdale upstairs, because it just really, really kills. It bounces my camera around. But here we go. All right, we're going to take a look at what got accomplished. So Mr. Nikala, at-large representative, and Mr. Rufo, at-large representative, could not make it to the meeting, but everyone else was present. And as a lot of you know, it was Executive Director Tyler Harris's last weekend. So we had a really nice, we gave him a card. I know that, like, in a way that's kind of cheesy, but it's the gesture that counts. It obviously isn't a high value thing. And we bought him these yellow and black cupcakes, but the black dye on those were something incredible. So all the guys were walking around as if they had black lipstick on, which was really, really strange. But again, we had a super, super full agenda, and I'm scrolling down to remember everything that had gone on. Now, on the first day, it was primarily officer reports. There is a OneNote for all of the reports, and I want to stick that on screen in case you guys, if I can get that link. Where'd that link go? Hold on one second. I'm trying to copy it. Copy link URL. So here we go. I'm going to stick this up on the screen in case those of you want to go read these reports. How come that didn't work? Here we go. It's because of the color. How do I fix this? I don't even know how you get the color on this. Let's see if it comes up if I hit add. Nope, it comes up as a black box. We do not want that. This is really weird. I've never had a problem putting text up on the screen before, but it has to be because it must be showing up in black text. So background color. Let's remove that. That didn't help. Maybe if I put it on a white background. Sorry, guys. Did that work? Nope, it didn't. All right, well, I'm just going to read it out to you because I ain't going to screw around with this any longer. It's tinyurl.com/July 2022 LNC meeting. No spaces in there. And it is super bugging me that I cannot show this to you. So I think I am going to share my screen for 1 second so you guys can see it, because I am not so sure that my little reading it out there worked. So okay, so up on the screen there, you can see my live notes from the meeting, and up at the top where it says the link for OneNote. So you have tinyurl.com/July 2022 LNC meeting. That is my rough notes for the meeting, but that you saw on the screen. But the tiny URL has all of the reports, all of the data that we were looking at. So that will give you reference points for everything I talk about. So we went over all of the officer reports. We went over all of the regional reports. It is absolutely impossible to go over everything here. I'd really suggest you go read them or you go review the video. Now the video, we had some problems, not with the video, but with the audio. With the video, we had just purchased an OWL system, OWL. It is so adorable. It's got like these two light up eyes and it hoots at you. Oh, like too cute. But the audio wasn't so great. We are working on that. That got better the second day, but it's still not exactly where we would like it to be. So all of the reports I thought were very good. I really enjoyed that Angela McCardle, she highlighted LPedia in her report. It's been a while since we've had an LNC that truly appreciates LPedia.org. So I was very happy to see that. Now, while Joshua Smith did not have a written report, he did put us on notice that there are issues going on with the Libertarian Party of Idaho. We'll get into that in a moment, but we added to the agenda time to schedule a special meeting to talk about Idaho. Alrighty, the 2022 convention minutes were approved along with a bunch of other minutes, and those are up on the website. And we also had the expungement ritual for the censure that was rescinded and expunged of Joshua Smith. So that was done. All right, staff reports, you know, you're going to need to listen to that if you want the details, but they were also very promising. We've had the best fundraising month, I believe it was in a non-presidential year. We also had best convention revenues ever. We almost beat the convention attendance for a convention, and the one year that beat us by 11, and that was a presidential year. So I do not think that you can even compare the two. All right, let's see. So Scott Horton spoke during lunch. And I have to tell you, I did have some disagreements with some of his points, but of course, libertarians can disagree. He was not a fan of the idea of a national divorce for two reasons. I think the primary reason was that it used language that's used by the Republicans. I don't think anyone owns words. And I don't really care if the Republicans use it. We actually mean it seriously, and we can redeem words. Words can be used badly, but we can redeem them. So I didn't necessarily agree on that point. And also at one point, he stated, like, you don't lead. There's certain issues you don't lead with. For instance, you don't lead with the fact that you want to repeal the Civil Rights Act when it comes to private individuals. Well, you know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. There are times and circumstances where that is a very popular issue. And I don't really tell people how to liberty. I don't believe we can centrally plan liberty. So I don't always say, well, even if I want in my head, would prefer liberty to proceed in a certain order, that's generally not the way it happens. We, libertarians of all people, should know that you cannot centrally plan liberty. So I hold to the radical notion of no particular orderism, which means you strike at the root, however, whenever and whatever the situation presents. And if that is repealing the Civil Rights Act because the thing that's in the news is the state of Colorado forcing that baker to bake a cake, then you lead with that, because that is the issue that is going on at the moment. Alrighty. Let's continue here. You know, obviously we had the Convention Oversight Committee report. Now, speaking of the convention, on Monday we were able to tour the facility that the 2024 convention will be held at. Unfortunately, it will be in the belly of the beast. It will be in DC. But I really enjoyed the tour of the hotel. A lot of it was typical hotel. However, the convention hall space was wonderful. Way better than Reno. Reno was way too crowded. It just didn't, the ambiance of it wasn't great. The convention hall in DC is gorgeous. It looks like a spaceship. Like it's this large oval. It has a permanent stage. It has entrance to the stage from behind, so we can bring up our speakers without having to traipse through the audience. There's like almost, I don't want to call it a mezzanine level because that normally means like a whole second story, but there's a raised level. So you have your pit, which is where your delegates will be, and then there's this raised level. I guess it's probably about 4.5 feet higher, maybe. And that's where the members of the gallery and the viewing public can go, as well as the alternate. So I think we're going to have plenty of room. All right, the ballot access report. That was given. There are 2 LNC vacancies to fill. Those positions will be filled. Well, the ballot expires at midnight tonight. So basically the first day was reports. That wasn't really the exciting part of the meeting. Now, unfortunately, one of the super exciting parts of the meeting was held in executive session. It's funny, we went into executive session a lot this weekend. Hello, JJ. And JJ knows we went into executive session a lot this weekend. But what was really funny is particularly when we were going into executive session on Sunday, was the only member of the public we really had on Sunday was Spike Cohen. So it became not just moving to go into executive session, we basically just moved to throw Spike Cohen out of the room, which was funny. But on the afternoon of the first day, we spent several hours in executive session going over the adoption of our strategic plan for 2022-2024. There are documents related to that in the OneNote that are public. But the reason we didn't adopt a strategy this meeting, there were no motions to adopt a strategy this meeting, was because the executive session produced more suggestions and Angela wishes to revise it before we formally adopt it. However, the general outline is in the OneNote. It's not secret. Just saying, because I know some people are losing their shit, but they're libertarians. They'll always lose their shit. The most interesting things happened on Sunday. So Sunday, it started out with Luke Enzer from Pennsylvania reading aloud a letter from one of the contenders in Idaho. And it appears what's going on in Idaho, and I have to say appears because I know nothing really about what's going on in Idaho, but unfortunately it looks like there's two competing boards. When there are two competing boards, the precedent, in my view, is absolutely clear. We do have to intervene. Now, intervening does not always mean we pick one of the two competing boards. If neither of them are clearly right, unfortunately, disaffiliation is the only thing that's on the table, and I do not like how much that word is coming up. But in that circumstance, that is really the only option you have. That is very similar to what happened in Oregon about 2010, 2011. Alrighty. Now, here's where things got contentious, and I need to drink some Smirnoff Ice. And you want to know what? Because I'm doing this through Ecamm, I'm wondering if I should do... I don't know how this works. I'm going to have somebody test this, because you know how you can get super chats on YouTube? On Twitch, you can get what's called bits. But I don't know if I get notified of that through Ecamm. So if anyone who's watching, like, I'm not like doing this to like whore for money or anything like that, but even if you've got like whatever the minimum amount of bits, if you can throw some at me just so I can test to see if it shows up on Ecamm. Because if not, when I'm doing Twitch streams only, I'm going to need to do it through the Twitch interface, because that would really suck if I couldn't see that. Perhaps, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up the Twitch interface and just turn down my volume on my computer here. Let me see how that looks. I'd like to see... Oh, let me turn down the volume. Hold on. Because I'm getting sound. Okay. Volume's off. Okay. Let me go to my channel. I'm not qualified for bits. I think I am, though, Squire, because I do have over 50 subscribers. And I thought that was the threshold. Let me know if it's not. I am completely a Twitch virgin. Okay, I can see the stream chat. So I think what I'm going to start to do is keep this up on my screen so I can keep an eye on things. But I got like 70 subscribers, and I thought all you needed was 50. But let me know. You know more about Twitch than I do. My fear with Twitch is that I'm going to start gaming. I already know my addictions. I've been staying away from that. Oh, God, please don't let me start gaming. Okay. We are back. So where was I? Let me go back to my notes here. I pulled up the wrong screen. What did I do? Well, let me try this. Live notes. Okay, so where things got really, really interesting at the LNC meeting There's more to qualify. All right, Squire, you'll have to let me know that in Discord. Please let me know, and I'll do whatever work I need to do to get to that point. Okay. Now, the big controversy came. Everything was super, super calm until we got to the presentation on the CRM. The CRM, which is our customer relationship manager, it's basically our database, has been an issue since day one. I can tell you where I stand, where I've always stand. I'm all on board the CRM, the Civi CRM train. I do not want to ditch Civi CRM. I know I'm not united in that. So there was a video that was played by Ken Molman. Andy Burns, who's a staff member, gave a really great presentation on the CRM. And then Mr. Nana, Region 3 representative, moved, and I think I have the exact wording of his motion here, that we prioritize the Razor's Edge migration with the goal of completion by the end of the year and to not renew our subscription with Razor's Edge in January unless we're not finished by that time. So let me explain for those of you who don't know. Right now we have two databases. We have Civi CRM, which is what the affiliates are on. Then National has something called Razor's Edge. Now, I know people, when they hear that, they're thinking like razors, like Harry's razors. No, it's Razors, R-A-I-S-E-R, like fundraiser. And the two do not integrate. So say when somebody renews their national membership, it gets put into Razor's Edge, but it's not migrated over into Civi CRM for a month. So if you're doing like membership renewal calls at a state affiliate, it can be at least a month before that information migrates. And I've been embarrassed more than once with outdated Civi CRM data. I'm seeing what JJ says. He says at least 500 total minutes broadcast in the last 30 days, at least 7. Okay, yeah, but I've done that. Does it mean I have to? Okay, one problem I did with Twitch is I didn't have the slider over to preserve the streams. So when I was done with a stream, it was done and no one could watch past screens. Come on, 500 total minutes. You guys know I can do 500 total minutes in one stream sometime if I'm ranting about an affiliate. So on Twitch, I have definitely done at least 500 total minutes in the last 30 days. And I always have done 7 so unique broadcast days. Does that mean not on YouTube? I don't get what that means, but I probably haven't had an average of 3 concurrent viewers. So that might be it. I do have at least 50 followers. I got 70 followers at this point. All right, Squire, I'm going to count on you to get me to a good place on Twitch. And yeah, Joe R. Evans is correct that Razor's Edge also is a wealth database. The amount of data that these companies have on you is absolutely ridiculous. But the fact is, there is a plugin and there's enhancements you can do to Civi CRM that will also do wealth tracking. For example, the Wikimedia Foundation uses Civi CRM for their fundraising. Very large nonprofits use customized, because Civi CRM is open source, customized Civi CRM. So we can get there, but it takes time to implement. Now, some members of the LNC appeared to not want to stick with Civi CRM. They wanted to move to HubSpot or some other database that would have been more proprietary. I have not been in favor of that. I understand the arguments for it, and they are persuasive, that we're not a technology company. We're not a software development company. And to expect us to continually modify Civi CRM for our own needs is kind of unreasonable. But on the other hand of that, we've got plenty of programmers in the party that want to donate their talents. And since Civi CRM is open source, they can do so. But when it comes to whether or not we migrate Razor's Edge to Civi CRM, to me, that was a no-brainer, because even if we switch to another provider, which we're not, by the way, Evan McMahon, if you're listening, don't freak out. We are not. There's no plan for that. I can't predict the future, but there's no plan for that. I am not in favor of that. Can't say what everyone else will do, but I think you know that I'm pretty stubborn and vocal when there's something that I'm pretty steadfast about. So there's no plans for that. But even if there were, we cannot migrate to another system until all of our crap is on one system. So no matter what we do, migrating Razor's Edge into Civi CRM is a prerequisite no matter what. And our development director, Gabby Cardova, said she does not want to be using two systems. She did not want to be using both Razor's Edge and Civi CRM. She wanted it all to be in Civi CRM, and I think that is what turned the tide, so that motion passed. By year's end, we will have migrated all of the Razor's Edge data into Civi CRM. And I forgot what the figure was that was bandied about, but I think our Razor's Edge subscription is like $40,000 a year. That's a lot of clamps. So that money will either be saved or invested into Civi CRM. And if I understood Andy Burns correctly, I mean, I don't even know if this was low key. I think this was pretty overt, that he was saying he ain't staying with us if we're just going to keep jumping around to multiple databases. Like if we were to ditch Civi CRM, we would lose Andy Burns. We don't want to lose Andy Burns. But I don't blame him. He's put a lot of time into this. So in any event, that motion passed. But you want to know what I don't think got done? I need to look at LP. Oh, maybe it did. We passed a motion early February or late June that said the contact form on lp.org, there was a goal of fixing it by this meeting. I want to go look to see if it's been fixed. Contact a specific. Yep, it's been fixed. It was done without much fanfare, but it's been fixed. Yay, that's a good thing. Now, because I saw at the time of the debate that at least at that time our chair and our treasurer were not on board with this motion, I knew I was going to make an unpopular motion. That has never stopped me before. I made a motion to postpone. It like failed like miserably, but the reason I did so wasn't because I wasn't in favor of it, but I think it's pretty important on something as major as this that you have all of the officers on board. And with the chair and the treasurer not on board, at least at that time, I think Angela's been persuaded, it made me uncomfortable, even though I was on board. But since my motion to postpone failed, I did vote ultimately for the Razor's Edge migration. All right, what was next? This is really what I wanted to talk to you guys about. I am going to pull up the OneNote, if I can, because I want to show you guys the policy manual changes that got passed, because I am super proud of them. It's like, I feel like mission accomplished when it comes to that. There were some really important policy manual changes that got that got passed. So new business. And if I sound like I'm freaking tired, I am freaking tired. I didn't get, my plane got delayed on the way home. And then I had to go to work today. It was a long day of work. Okay, let me go and share my screen. Okay, this was the CRM presentation. I don't want to do that. I want to do the policy manual. All right, this to me is the most important policy manual change I have ever gotten passed or ever sponsored, because obviously I can't pass things on my own. I don't think on this one there were any dissenting votes. I think it was unanimous without the chair voting, because she normally doesn't vote. But with all the people who typically vote, I don't think there were any abstentions or no's. Just having a sip here. So I added to section 1.01, General Delegation of Authority, a new section 4 that reads, and you all will understand very quickly why this is near and dear to my heart. No party officer or at-large member shall be subject to removal from office except for failure to perform the duties of office or gross malfeasance. The process for removing officers and at-large members shall be the trial procedure as outlined in the party's parliamentary authority. The officer or at-large members' membership rights can be suspended by a 2/3 vote while the matter is being investigated, if necessary, to prevent potential harm to the party. This is a very, very big deal. I'm trying to go back to my screen here. Why isn't it working? One second. This is weird. Oh no, here we go. Okay, you all were looking at my Filmora video editing thing there for a while. Now the party bylaws, and I know the last LNC and the last Judicial Committee disagreed with me. They were wrong. The delegates said they were wrong, and the delegates are the ultimate authority in this matter. So the party bylaws only prescribe a vote threshold for removing an officer. And the party bylaws prescribe that Robert's Rules of Order is our parliamentary authority. If you go and look at the removal provisions in Roberts, you oddly enough, and I know this is counterintuitive, but oddly enough, the procedure for removing an officer is dictated or controlled by the type of wording that you have that describes the terms of office of an officer. And the way the terms of our office is described in the bylaws means that the officer gets a trial, unless a different process is prescribed in the bylaws. Now, something else that the bylaws prescribe is that the LNC is allowed to promulgate special rules of order as long as they don't contradict the bylaws. So since the bylaws only prescribe the vote threshold and not the process, the LNC is free to prescribe the process. And also the bylaws only say for cause and do not define cause. So the LNC is free to define cause. So that's what this special rule of order does. It says the process and it says cause, and it actually raises the bar from the Roberts standard prescribed, because membership rights can be suspended by Roberts with only a 50% vote. Our special rules of order say a 2/3. I think 50% is far too small. And the purpose of that last sentence is because when I started floating this language by other LNC members, this was their concern, that there are legitimate grounds to remove at-large members or officers, particularly officers. And the classic example I always give is if your treasurer is embezzling money from the party. And if something like that is going on, you don't want to have that person still have full financial access while the investigation is ongoing, because the investigation, I mean, the notice for it alone is 30 days. You could be talking about a 30 to 60 day process, and you don't want to have some fraudster running amok for 60 days. So I wanted to put something in there to assuage those concerns that say during the investigation process, the rights of the accused can be suspended. So the treasurer can be denied financial access during the investigation process. And I have no problem with that, actually. An at-large member can be denied access to certain sensitive information, though they don't have nearly the type of access that officers do. Now, what some people have said to me, and this is absolutely true, because it's the policy manual, it can be amended out by the next LNC. It can be suspended. However, if the next LNC did that and then immediately went and removed somebody, I think everyone would really see them for the corrupt bastards that they would be. Now, we're talking about a hypothetical LNC. So, if this policy manual provision was in their last term, with the very poor opinion I have of the last LNC, I don't think even they would have had the balls to remove it and then try to remove me. It would have just been too obviously transparent. So I do think it is a fairly decent measure of protection, but is it perfect? No. We need to get that language in our bylaws. But until that can happen, and I'm pretty confident it will happen in the future, the policy manual amendment is the next best thing. And I am super, super glad that got passed. To me, that was the most important thing that happened this weekend. Now, there were some related policy manual changes. There was a theme, as I joked to the LNC. I was like, can you see that I'm operating on a theme here? Because I'll tell you the other policy manual changes, which are all related. So that was the first one. Well, this one here isn't exactly related, but it kind of is. It all has to do with last term, let's put it that way. So in the same section, I added a sentence to the authority of the executive committee that says that they exercise all powers of the LNC between LNC meetings when urgency demands a more immediate time frame than when the LNC can next meet. So you can see that on your screen. Take a look at it quickly because I'm going to be taking that off. Why did I want that? Because last LNC, because I really just don't think they liked each other very much, quite honestly. I don't think they liked themselves very much, quite honestly. We used to have monthly electronic meetings, which has been reinstituted for this LNC. And what they did immediately, like after, the final JC decision about me, they immediately proceeded to cancel all of their monthly meetings, as if they didn't have anything to talk about. Now remember, during that period of time that they canceled the electronic meetings because there just wasn't enough business to conduct, that's when Delaware happened, that's when Massachusetts happened. So it's utter bull that they didn't need electronic meetings. And then not only that, they canceled their first quarter in-person meeting, which should have happened in March. So what happened? They did have a few special LNC meetings, but in general, the executive committee ran the party. And even though I'm on the executive committee, so I'm denying myself some kind of special privilege, I did not think it was proper for the executive committee to be running the party. The executive committee was not elected to run the party. And in fact, 3 members of the executive committee aren't even directly elected by the delegates. The LNC picks them. The 4 officers plus 3 additional members elected. Well, actually, the whole LNC chooses them, but it's not the delegates. So, There are a few circumstances in which the executive committee has to make decisions, such as authorizing lawsuits and encumbering ballot access funds. But other than that, if there's enough time for the LNC to meet, and it only takes 5 days notice for the LNC to have an electronic meeting, whereas the executive committee only requires 2 days notice, if you've got at least 5 days, have the entire LNC make the decision, not the executive committee. I don't believe in shrinking the LNC from 17 voting members to 7 voting members. I think that's a gross abuse of power when the entire LNC can meet. All right, let me go to the next policy manual amendment I got passed. And I'm pretty much done with policy manual amendments after this meeting, by the way. I think everyone thinks that's all they want to do is amend the policy manual. Okay, next. Delete policy manual 2.016 while retaining one section. This was a policy manual section that was weaponized against myself and Joshua. Some of the things in here weren't bad. However, we didn't need them in the policy manual. It is already covered in Roberts under proper rules of behavior for boards of directors. And there were some things in here that were just unlibertarian nannying. Let me give you an example. You weren't allowed to BCC anyone if you sent an email to the LNC list. Well, first of all, how would they know? It's a BCC. And I can tell you that no policy manual is going to tell me that I can't BCC someone. Because sometimes there would be a discussion, and the example I used at the meeting was about transparency. If there was an LNC discussion on transparency, I wanted Starchild to know about it, and I would BCC Starchild. There's been times I've BCC'd when the discussion's been about ranked choice voting. The representative of RCV Colorado, here obviously in Colorado. It was just ridiculous that they were trying to nannying us to that extent. But for example, it says, first one, address the group. It says side conversations and personal interactions must be taken to one-on-one email. So that means you weren't allowed to email the group a nice email like, hey, happy birthday to X today. That was against the rules. I mean, those sorts of things build community. No personality-based discussion. Well, that's already prohibited under Roberts. We did not need that in the policy manual. No misrepresentation of another's work. That is also already covered under Roberts. We did not need that in the policy manual. Same thing with offensive language, whatever. No flooding or cross-posting, meaning you couldn't send to the LNC and also post on social media. I'm sorry, you're not going to tell me I can't do that. That was just nannying. No off-charter material. Come on. If that becomes a problem, the chair could always step in. But to say that you couldn't post something that you thought would be of interest as long as you didn't abuse that process with LNC members, that was unneeded nannying. Check this out. Substantial subject lines. So your subject lines now must meet the approval of the rest of the LNC. That's so subjective, and we haven't had a problem with that. Limit message size. Don't quote the entire email each time. Well, sometimes it's necessary to be sure that you're responding to every point and that people understand the context. Okay. Now, the one thing I thought should be retained is what's here in green. I just moved it to a different section, and it is concerns regarding staff. It says concerns regarding a staff member's behavior should, not shall, should, because you can't take away the fiduciary duty of an LNC member to say something publicly if they feel it's absolutely necessary, and that's what Joshua was censured for. So anyway, that one passed. And then here's the last one. and it's under another section that was weaponized against myself. Harassment and offensive behavior prohibitions. Oh boy. So, I added the green language. So when it talks about where these rules apply, the green language says, while discharging official duties. So if you say language like F or barbed dildos or whatever it might be in your YouTube channel, it has nothing to do with your LNC role, they can't come after you for that. So that got added. I deleted or moved, and the LNC deleted the paragraph that said any behavior, whether verbal or physical, that clearly offends a reasonable person, libertarian or not, must be avoided. And I said when this was originally written, there probably were reasonable people. But today, there ain't a damn thing you can say that's not going to offend somebody. So this just became vague and subjective to the point of uselessness. Libertarianism offends a million people. Like if we took this literally, we couldn't say anything. And it got repeated here as a rule of thumb. If you think it might be offensive, it probably is. Just like I discussed earlier, I think the Civil Rights Act should be repealed. I bet you a lot of people think that's offensive. And then we added in. Now I realize this is not a complete definition of whistleblowers. I added this in as a starting point. But the fact is, this has become one definition of whistleblower. It's happened on other boards where, I believe it was a school board, where a school board member was either censored. Yeah, they were censored. No, it wasn't a school board. It was a faculty advisory board. And they were censured. But in that particular organization, a censure actually lost you all kinds of faculty rights. And the court talked about critical speech was considered a form of whistleblowing, and you can't punish people for that, even if what they said was false. It was really interesting court case. So we added in whistleblower protection, and this will be expanded because obviously there's a lot of other things that fall under whistleblowing, but this is one that's near and dear to my heart. And it says, mere criticism, even if harsh, of the policies, decisions, and business practices of the LNC by other members of the LNC shall not be considered harassment or grounds for removal from office for officers and at-large members. Rules of decorum shall apply to all official interactions. Okay, so it means you can criticize on your personal time. Be nice while you're in official communications, which I always am. I don't curse or, go off on rants in official communications. I know some people, for some reason, think I do, though they can't find an example of it because I don't. Over the 6 years I've been on the LNC, if I've cussed a couple times, it's been by accident. I don't believe in that. You'll note that even to Zoom meetings, you'll never see me in a t-shirt. Like, I act and dress professionally during official interactions. I save my cruder stuff for my personal life. So I thought those were very, very important policy manual changes that I got passed. Now the entire policy manual is going to be going through a revision. Angela appointed an ad hoc committee to review the policy manual. Did I cuss? I cussed once, I think. Did I cuss at my removal meeting? I think I only said shit. I didn't say the F-bomb. I don't think. I think I did say shit, though, at my removal meeting. That was one time I cussed. In retrospect, did I say the F-bomb? Remind me. Do you know what the context was? Because I know I did cuss at that meeting. I regret that I didn't cuss more. I actually believed I would get a fair hearing. But there's probably been 3 times in 6 years that I've cussed at an LNC meeting. Unlike John Phillips, and Aaron Adams, who cussed all the time. And, like, we're toking weed in Zoom meetings. Like, I don't even drink in Zoom meetings. And you know I like to drink. I'm trying to remember, where did I say the F-bomb? That is super unusual for me. And JJ, you've seen enough meetings to know that's unusual for me. Even at this LNC meeting, there's a popular expression, shit or get off the pot, but I said poop. Poop or get off the pot. I wouldn't even say shit at this meeting, even though it wasn't directed at an LNC member. But I'm going to have to listen to that. I wish I cussed more now. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me, but I really did think I would get somewhat of a fair hearing. Maybe not from the entire LNC, but maybe could sway one of the people who were inclined toward yes, but none of them, except for the ones that were already solidly no's. But to be honest, the ones that were solidly no's, I don't think anything on the quote-unquote prosecution side would have changed their minds either, but they didn't even try. Like, they didn't even try. They just repeated, like, what they had already presented. I presented additional information, but I did not get a fair shake. But I can't remember. I read from a script, so I wonder if F was in my script. I'm going to need to take a look at that. I'm kind of like a little embarrassed that I said F, because I don't normally do that. I believe in professional meetings. Okay, so those were very important policy manual changes. Okay, so let me look at my notes and see what happened next. One second, those were long. Whistleblower. Okay, we went into executive session again and came out of executive session and approved the contract of Reed Cooley as communications director. For those of you who don't know Reed, though a lot of you do, and some not so kind LP members have already been slandering him, which is unfortunate. People should not start employment in that way. He is a registered Libertarian. He is not a Republican. He was the communications director for Young Americans for Liberty for a while. Young American for Liberty does tend to support Republicans, but they are a nonpartisan organization. They have supported Libertarians and they have supported Liberty Democrats. Now, apparently, Reed did not like the direction that Young Americans for Liberty were going in. I don't know all the details of it. I don't pay much attention to Young Americans for Liberty. But he got fired because he was critical. So already I love him. Okay? Already I feel a kindred spirit. So he was basically fired for whistleblowing that they were going off charter. And apparently, they offered him $10,000 to sign a non-disparagement agreement, and he refused the money because he felt it was more important to expose what was going on. So already, I like this guy. He's got principles. But he was a very, very good communications director for Young Americans for Liberty. I think we are really, really fortunate to have him. And also, again, as a fellow whistleblower that paid the price, I feel good that getting hired by another major liberty organization is a kind of vindication for him. And I know how I felt when I got vindicated, so I feel good about being able to provide vindication for somebody else who was wrongfully targeted, in my opinion. So Reed Cooley started today. I have high hopes that he's going to do very well. We have not yet hired a new executive director, but we do have an interim executive director through November, and that's Lainey. I think her last name is pronounce Houghton. She was a national coordinator for the Mises Caucus. She is a doll. She's a sweetheart. She's going to do wonderful. From what I understand, I don't think she wants the job permanently and that she'll just be there till November, but I guess we shall see. And we're continuing our search for the right executive director. There's very specific experience that is needed to be an executive director, and it's not just being a great activist. Okay. Let's see where we were at next. All right. Then we went into some elections. We elected as our permanent assistant treasurer, Brian Elliott. He was our temporary assistant treasurer that's required by the FEC. Speaking of assistants, I brought on an unofficial, because it's not in the bylaws or the policy manual, assistant secretary. That was Chase Crum. He spent the first day with me. He spent Friday afternoon with me training. He works for Microsoft. He's going to try to help me automate some of the really time-consuming minutes things. But when he first suggested that for me, he did not realize the amount of detail I stick in minutes and the QR codes that lead to the videos. But he's going to take a look at it and see if he can help save me some time. So Chase was there for the first day. Unfortunately, one of his children got sick and he couldn't be there for the second day. We also had 2 LNC vacancies on the Ballot Access Committee. I want to explain what I mean by LNC vacancies. And I know some people disagree with this. For instance, I know Starchild disagrees with this. And Starchild and I disagree here. Nearly every standing committee and some ad hoc committees have a required number of LNC members that have to be on that committee. The whole committee is not LNC members, but there's a required number of LNC members. Some people think that's just the LNC having their fingers in too many pots and that it should be all non-LNC members. I don't agree. We were the ones that were elected to get things done. So we need to be on these committees to make sure they're staying on message, on purpose, and on track. So I don't agree that we shouldn't have a required number of LNC members. Now, sometimes I think the number of required LNC members is too many, but there should be LNC members. So there were vacancies caused by the changeover in the LNC with people not getting reelected that created 2 vacancies on the Ballot Access Committee that are required to be filled by LNC members. And 4 of us applied. There's 2 seats. Joshua Smith, myself, Rich Bowen, and Todd Hagopian. That ballot ends tonight. I said in my nomination speech that I'm the Susan Lucci of the Ballot Access Committee. I've been applying for it since 2016 and I've never been elected to be put on it. So we shall see what happens. Everyone knows I'm a hard worker. It's a hard-working committee. We'll see. I mean, I'm not going to be ass mad or anything if I'm not elected. I haven't been elected since 2016, but I have high hopes. Next was also the election of the Audit Committee. All of these ballots end tonight. Officers do not get to elect have a voice in the election of the Audit Committee because the Audit Committee ostensibly is auditing the officers, particularly our financials. So there is the one non-officer LNC member that's required. That is Rich Bowen, who has an accounting background. Next is the Candidate Support Committee. We reduced the required number of LNC members on that committee from 5, which was ridiculously high, to 2. And the Affiliate Support Committee, the policy manual was also changed there. It used to be that 3 members of the Affiliate Support Committee were appointed by the LSLA. We removed that and had them appointed by the LNC. The LNC has a specific vision for the Affiliate Support Committee. The LSLA has not been particularly active, and Pat Ford, who is on the LNC, is the vice chair of the LSLA. That's the leadership. Libertarian. No. Is it Libertarian? Libertarian State Leadership Alliance. That's what it is. So they will have a voice still with Pat Ford, since Pat Ford was appointed chair of the Affiliate Support Committee. All right, so that's it for the committees. We heard a presentation from David Lasher, who is the Maryland gubernatorial candidate. He was a sweetheart. And we're coming up on the end here. Second to last. I'm gonna do the very last thing and then go to the second to last. The very last thing was to set the place and date of the next LNC meeting. It will be in Austin, Texas, November. I think I told you this already. November 5th through 6th, since Angela will be, New Mexico's the last thing I'm going to cover, JJ. So the next LNC meeting is November 5th through 6th in Austin. Angela is moving from Los Angeles to Austin. She asked for us, though I joked with her and told her I was going to make a motion to have it in Sitka, Alaska, but she asked for us to have it in Austin because she's going to be 8.5 months pregnant at that time and won't be allowed to travel on a plane and doesn't want to be in a car for hours and hours and hours. So it will be in Austin, Texas, November 5th through 6th. We would love to see any of you there. All right, last thing. New Mexico. So a motion did get passed. It was the motion that I noticed with an amendment. So they had an illegal, I've already done enough shows on New Mexico that I'm not going to explain the backdrop in detail. Just going to give you the summary. They had an illegal convention on July 12th, in which they passed a bunch of constitutional and/or bylaws amendments, one of which extended the terms of their executive committee, changed their parliamentary authority. I mean, changing the terms of the executive committee was the big thing, because what that means is next convention, the delegates will not be able to elect a new executive committee except for the chair. The chair was accepted just for this next election. His term will end, though future chairs' terms will be longer than the 2 years they customarily were. This is a big deal if it was an illegal convention, because it is removing the right of members next convention to elect a new executive committee. So they had an illegal convention on July 12th. They also had an illegal convention on, it was either March 4th or 5th. So what was decided, I'm going to read you the motion that was passed. And it was moved by myself, moved that the Libertarian Party of New Mexico be informed in writing that the Libertarian National Committee has found the Constitutional Convention held on July 12, 2022, was null and void, and recognizes the LPNM's official constitution and bylaws as those adopted March 27, 2021, so therefore the ones that were adopted last year. And request your acknowledgement that those are the operative constitution and bylaws by August 31st, 2022, or the LNC may need to consider other options. The exact form and content of the letter shall be drafted by the chair or her designee with approval by the executive committee. I know Angela's working on it this week. I believe she's going to be asking me to insert in the parliamentary particulars, and then the executive committee will approve it and it will go out. It's expected to go out this week. Now, it seemed to me, surprisingly, that there were more people on the LNC that had a taste to simply disaffiliate them. I do not have a taste or desire to disaffiliate anybody. However, the phrase, the LNC may need to consider other options, obviously is a veiled, I don't want to call it a threat, but a veiled insinuation that disaffiliation is not off the table. It's not completely off the table for me either, but I want to try every other option first. I received a letter today from a member in New Mexico who sent me the form letter to file a formal complaint with the Elections Board of New Mexico. I hate running to the state. However, I think I hate that less than disaffiliation. So perhaps if they don't comply, the LNC can file a complaint with New Mexico. I don't know if that's what they'll decide, but that's another action I think we can do. But after that point, the only choices we have are do nothing, which is utterly unacceptable to me, or disaffiliation, which is bad, but not as bad as utterly unacceptable. So that's where we're at. My sincere desire is that they just voluntarily comply in the next month. But honestly, though I have no say in this or, way to make this happen, there are certain members who are very upset that we passed this motion, said we overstepped our bounds, blah, 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 blah. And I don't mean blah, 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 blah as disrespect. I think there are people of good faith who can think that. I would encourage them to appeal. This is an appealable decision. Appeal it to the Judicial Committee, and then we'll all have guidance. You have to collect, just under 200 signatures, but I did it for Massachusetts. It wasn't just me, but it's me and a group of people. But you and your little group of people should have no problem collecting signatures. If you really think this is so outrageous, appeal it. Now, you will need to go the 1% of registered members route rather than 10% of delegates at the last convention, because let's face it, the last convention was primarily Mises. It will be much more difficult to get 10% than it will be to get 10% of registered delegates than it will be 1% of national members. But hey, do it however you want to if you're going to appeal. But you only got 30 days. So you only got till August 31st to file the appeal. So if you're going to do that, listen, then we'll all have clarity. But I have to tell you, bitching without doing something about it when you have an appeal route, even if you don't think the JC will do anything. I don't think the JC will do anything about a lot of things last term, but I still appealed. You have to exhaust all of your remedies and then bitch all you want. But if all you're going to do is complain and not appeal, bye, Felicia. I don't know what to tell you. I believe we were fully in our rights to do this. The party parliamentarian believes we were fully in our rights to do this. I am perfectly comfortable with this decision, which is why I'm perfectly comfortable for you to appeal it. And if the JC says no, then the JC says no. That's the way it goes. My attitude with the JC is you win some, you lose some. I've lost big. And I still have that attitude. Okay. So, there's one motion I forgot. So the motion to hear the issues surrounding Idaho is set for August 11th. There will be no motions considered unless somebody notices a motion to be heard at that meeting by August 6th, which is your notice requirement. Pardon me. There will be no notices heard. No motions heard at that meeting. That meeting will be a testimony-only meeting. We have been in contact with both sides of the dispute. I think both sides will be there, unlike the New Mexico one, in which the Board of New Mexico chose not to appear. A lot of people are using the fact that that board did not give testimony at that hearing as an excuse that we should do nothing. They were invited. They knew about it. They chose not to appear. They did not write us and say the day was no good. They did nothing. It was radio silence. So, I know, so JJ says he's been advising the Idaho group. I know next to nothing. I know a little bit from them, like asking me questions and me saying I can't get involved. But I don't know both sides. I got to read the material. I don't have an opinion. So I'll be doing that over the next week. I hope the other side, we got material, we're going to call it the Sorensen side and the Imhoff side. We've gotten material from the Sorensen side. I've asked Ms. Imhoff to send information from her side. I have been in contact with her and have invited their entire executive board. So August 11th, which is a Thursday, will be that hearing. I do encourage everyone to come. The Zoom information is on the LNC list. I will be posting it on the website. And anyone remind me, I think that was it for this meeting. That's a lot to get done at a meeting. Our next regular meeting, so the next meeting's August 11th, but that's only on Idaho. The next regular meeting will be the first Sunday in September. That's our regular monthly electronic meeting. The next meeting after that, unless it's 30 days, let's look at October. Let me look at my calendar. We might not have a meeting in October because I think the motion establishing the monthly meetings says we have a monthly meeting as long as it's not within 30 days. The first Sunday in October is October 2nd. So that is not within 30 days of November 5th. So we will have an electronic meeting on October 2nd. So we have multiple electronic meetings, and then November is our budget meeting. It's a big deal. All right, everyone. I think that's it. I thank you, everyone who's been helping me try to get my Twitch stream monetized. One reason why I have gone to Twitch for this and why I will be paying a bit more attention to Twitch is due to the economic downturn. Unfortunately, there's some people who just can't afford to be patrons anymore. So I'm trying to find different ways to monetize my content because my goal is to work a corporate job part-time and do this part-time. But that's not going to happen unless I raise the income for this. So I'm going to ask you once again, if you have a Amazon Prime membership, you may not know, but they give you a free subscription a month, and a subscription is actually a certain dollar amount. It's low. It's like $5 or something like that you can assign to the streamer of your choice, and it costs you nothing. It doesn't add to your Prime membership. It's a benefit that you have. If you haven't already given your one free monthly subscription that you get with your Prime membership to a streamer, I would ask that you give it to me. I think on the Twitch page, you just hit subscribe, and then out of the options, it's different than follow. It says use free subscription or something like that. I would be deeply, deeply appreciative if you would give me, it says once you get affiliate. Squire's telling me again. Squire, help me. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Okay, well, save it for when I get affiliate. Save it for when I've got to be close. Now that I hit that button, I got to be close. You're going to be my Twitch advisor, Squire. You've just been promoted. All right, everyone. It has been over an hour. I gotta be close. I gotta be close. Look at my statistics and let me know. I've got to be close. And yeah, that's going to be it for tonight. I'm super tired. If Wayne is still up, we are going to watch the next episode of The Anarchists so that I can do that review and catch up tomorrow. But that will be YouTube. This stream will eventually go on YouTube, but I am keeping it on Twitch exclusive for a while because I want to encourage people to watch and comment on Twitch. But a copy of it will immediately go up patron only because I don't want to rip off my patrons. Because I already lost a few due to the economic downturn. They both were like so it wasn't just both actually. I think it was 3 or 4. Were so apologetic. They're like, listen, we just can't afford to live right now, you know, and Patreon is a luxury we can't afford. So also you guys, if any of you guys, you know, you're blessed enough to be able to support content that you like, particularly Libertarian Party content, and you can become a Patreon, if you could help me make up that lost Patreon, I'd be eternally grateful. It's so discouraging, and I don't mean to make the people who had to leave feel bad. But man, this is a grind. This is a hustle. All right, everyone. I hope you have an awesome night. And I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, with an anarchist, whatchamacallit, an anarchist review. But here's another of my side hustle. I sell plasma. Like this woman, Mama does a lot to scrimp and get whatever income I can do to try to do Liberty more full time. So I sit my butt in that chair for 2 hours while they suck blood out of me for $40 or whatever it is. All right, everyone. I hope you have an awesome night, and I will see you tomorrow. I'm looking for my closing stream. That's why I keep going here. I lost my mouse. All right, here it is. Bye-bye, and I love you.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to